Let's go ahead and start with the prompt, like always. Which choice states the main idea? And let's go ahead and try to find the main idea. This person has identified a negative correlation between the share of developing countries' economies derived from natural resource extraction and those countries' receipts of foreign investment. Let's think about that for a second. There's a negative correlation. Negative correlation means that as one thing goes up, the other one goes down. And there's a negative correlation between the share of the economies derived from natural resources, so how much the economy is rooted in natural resources, and the receipt of foreign investment. So as natural resources become a bigger part of the share of the economy of that country, investment in that country actually goes down. So let's think about that for a second. That's actually counterintuitive because you would think that if a country has more natural resources, companies are going to want to invest more in that country. So we're noticing something that's a little counterintuitive here. This may appear counterintuitive. Resource extraction requires initial investments in extractive technology, for instance, at scales best met by multinational corporations. But this person notes that natural resource industries' boom bust cycles can destabilize local currencies and increase developing countries' vulnerability to external shocks, creating levels of uncertainty to which foreign investors are typically averse. So let's take that apart a little. So, resource extraction requires investments at scales that are best met by multinational corporations. In other words, the things that need to be done to get the resources are things that large corporations are the best at. But the boom bust cycle that comes along with resources, so boom and bust, in other words, sometimes the economy goes up and sometimes it goes down. So that cycle destabilizes the currency and it increases vulnerability to external shocks, creating uncertainty. So, long story short, right there, although it would seem that big companies are the best equipped to extract natural resources, it actually seems that natural resources are the most vulnerable to boom bust cycles and problems with their currency. They're the most vulnerable right here. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and foreign investors are very averse to that. So, long story short, you would think that as you have more resources, you're going to have more investment, but it actually turns out that it's the opposite because resources are tied to a lot of volatility and uncertainty. So let's start looking at the answers. A says, although it may seem surprising that foreign investment declines in developing countries as natural resource extraction makes up a larger share of those countries' economies, that decline happens because resource extraction requires initial investments too large for foreign investors to supply. That's just simply not what they said. Let's look at it one more time. Although it seems surprising that the declines make up a larger share of their economy, that decline happens because extraction requires initial investments. So, this is saying that there's a decline, and the reason for the decline is because extraction requires big investments. Extraction does require big investments, but the passage didn't say that's the reason for the decline. So, we can get rid of that. B. Although developing countries tend to become less dependent on foreign investment as natural resource industries make up a larger share of their economy, this change may not occur. Well, right here, we could already get rid of this one because we never saw that developing countries tend to become less dependent on foreign investment as natural resource industries make up a larger share of their economies. That may or may not be true in real life, but we didn't see that in the passage. We saw that it's more common that if there are more natural resources, there will be more outside investment, that's the more common thing. And what ends up happening here is counterintuitive. So we can get rid of B. C. Although one might expect that foreign investment would increase as natural resource extraction makes up a larger share of the economy, the opposite happens because heavy reliance on natural resources can lead to unattractive conditions for investors. That's exactly what we said in our own words when we read it. So that sounds pretty good. D. Although foreign investors tend to avoid initial investments in natural resource industries in developing countries, foreign investment may increase significantly as those industries stabilize and the risks associated with them decline. So, foreign investment may increase as industries stabilize. That absolutely was not said anywhere in there. It was actually the opposite. It said that resources tend to be tied to volatility and uncertainty. So the answer that sounded good was C. C says, although you would think that foreign investment would increase as natural resources become a bigger part of the economy, the opposite is true because reliance on natural resources creates unattractive conditions, which we referred to as volatility and uncertainty. So the answer here is C.